Hey, 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 it's your friendly neighborhood acupuncturist, Chris Carlo, Doctor of Acupuncture with the Acupuncture and Herbal Medicine Clinic and the Nature's Healing website. I like to always share some good health tips for you, and something that's been on my mind lately is a lot of talk about diet and food and the health of the food industry. And it's exciting actually to hear a lot of people talking about these things, because I've been focused on these for decades actually, back to the 80s, 1980s. Even for myself, before I even became an acupuncturist, I was playing around with my diet, and I was recognizing there was a lot of problems with food, whether it be additives and colorings and just things that weren't natural, like GMOs, genetically modified foods, and spraying chemicals and all sorts of things that I always feel like if something is more natural, there's a truth to that, and I look for that. And if something has been modified artificially, particularly, for instance, a food that can sit on a shelf and it doesn't rot, I don't know if that's a food anymore. That's something else. And I don't think people have been eating those things long enough to really understand how they affect the body and affect our health. But it's actually been a while, and I've seen these things for decades and how they can impact your health. And so I wanted to put together a video that really focuses on what I call top 10 simple and effective tips for healthy eating. And this video is not going to get into so much the details of what to eat, but it's going to talk about more in regards to how to eat. And there's other factors that affect our digestion that people are just not considering. They're so wrapped up on organic foods and all that, which, okay, there's some importance there, but there's a big factor that everybody's missing when it comes to eating, and I'm going to bring that up, and we're going to talk about that. So let's get into this. So when we talk about diet, sometimes people think, oh, that's about weight loss, losing weight or managing your weight. Diet is just eating, okay? And what is the purpose of your diet? What is the purpose of your eating? Is it to lose weight? Okay. Is it to manage your weight and stay where you are? Okay. Is it to build muscle? There could be different reasons that you may get into a diet specifically for yourself. And a lot of times when they talk about diet, they being whatever, health professionals and gurus, and just in general, you may hear talk about diet. You got to always ask yourself, if they say this is generally healthy food, well, for who and for what reason? What population? People in the United States deal with different health issues than people in other countries. So you have to consider those factors when they talk about what is a good diet. Okay, so it's unique to each individual. If you tend to have a job where you're sitting in front of a desk, in front of a computer all day long, you're not physically active. You're mentally active. Your diet needs to be different. Someone who's working, paving the roads, or working with doing hard, physical labor, lifting, carrying, moving things around, they're going to need a different type of diet than someone sitting behind a computer all day. So for example, sitting behind a computer, you want to eat less food. You want to eat less foods that are going to be increasing your weight, or less in caloric intake. You're not going to be burning the physical calories so much. Okay, so lighter foods, fruits and vegetables. Someone who's doing more physical work, they're going to need a lot more calories to burn all day long. So they're going to have some more carbohydrates, some more staple foods in their diet. The starches, the pasta, the rice, that sort of thing, potatoes, for example. But someone who's more sedentary, If you eat a lot of pasta, rice, potatoes, bread, baked goods, sugar, that's going to lead to weight gain, right? A lot of calories. Your body's not going to burn it up. And this is where we get into trouble with diabetes and such as well. Okay, so that's just a general concept about, why we, focus on what type of diet. It's an individual need. We need to understand our own individual needs. Everybody's a little different. So I just want to start there. And if I had to say a good general healthy diet for what I've seen and know, it would basically be low carb. Carbs are going to be the pasta, the rice, the cereals, the grains, the bread, the potato. These are starches, these are grains, cereals. They're the ones that are going to have more calories. They break down into sugar. Those are great if you, if you're going to have a big city with lots of people and you need to feed them all, like in ancient times, you better have crops of some kind of grain, like wheat for Europe and rice for Asia and corn for the Americas, right? Those are the grains of those regions. And if you have a lot of people, you're going to be able to feed a lot of people with those kind of things. But I would call those the cheap foods. Those are the things that we need to stay away from in today's society. If you tend to sit around more so and are not so physically active. Okay, if you're more physically active, you probably need a little bit more of those. So low carb. And we definitely need more fruits and veggies. Fruits and veggies have a lot of the micronutrients that we need. So if you don't have veggies in your diet, a lot of times I'll say eat more fruits and veggies, and what people end up, I think, hearing is eat more fruit, and they forget about the veggies. So you really need to eat more vegetables and fruits, a lot of good micronutrients in those foods, and they tend to be lighter, not so heavy as far as calories. A lot of fiber, just helpful for the digestive system and how it functions. And then there are good quality proteins and fats that you need to have. Sometimes people eat too much proteins, right? Like they have a big giant steak on their plate. That's too much. Maybe the size of your palm, that's about as much protein for a meal. Just a general idea. The problem with fats is fats have had a bad reputation for many decades, and it's based on wrong ideas. The idea is not so much of the quality, of the quantity of fat, but the quality. We need to eat good quality fats. I'll talk about this a little bit as we go, but good quality fats are important. It's not so much quantity. A lot of the foods are all about low-fat diet this and low-fat diet that. We need fats. A lot of our body requires fats. Hormones are developed out of cholesterol, which is needed in the body. So for somebody to really start cutting fats out of their diet, you could be going too far, in the wrong direction with that. So low carbs, more veggies and fruits, and good quality proteins and fats. Don't have to have large portions, but good quality. All right, let's get into the next little subject line here. Digestion is fundamental to your health. A lot of people, if say you want to lose weight, say that's a focus of yours. A lot of people start focusing on exercise. And what does exercise do? You start exercising, you're going to want to eat, right? So I would say that diet is about 80% of your effort. Dieting, cutting the calories, you got to put yourself into a calorie deficit so that your body will start eating its own fat. That's how weight is lost. Okay, so diet is 80%. Exercise is 20%. And if you're in a diet where you have a caloric deficit, and your body starts eating its own fat because it doesn't have enough calories to function and operate, you have to be careful exercising too much because you could hurt muscle mass, for example. So again, some of this stuff you may need professional help with, to guide you. But I'm just giving you some general ideas. A lot of times people are really focused on exercise, trying to lose weight, and I would steer them more towards dieting and focusing on what they eat to lose weight. Okay, food provides the building blocks to rejuvenate, rebuild, and restore your physical body, the energy needs, and the balance in chemistry. It's so important. All right, now in what I practice, being an acupuncturist, I practice what we would say is traditional Chinese medicine. This is like an ancient study that goes back thousands of years. And I also want to note, in the United States, we've only had acupuncture since the 1970s. Imagine that. This has been around for thousands of years, but when Nixon went over to China and kind of opened up relationships, that was in the early 70s. That created an awareness of acupuncture. That was brought back. Schools were opened, and people started learning about the healing effects of acupuncture. But, interesting note, and it's something that I specialize in, I do electroacupuncture, and electric stimulation is a little more of a modern idea, and there's a lot of history of this that comes from Europe. Europe has an older history with China, going back several hundred years. So just imagine something that's been around for a few hundred years. That's definitely a lot of time to develop some good understanding of therapy, as acupuncture and electroacupuncture provides. So there's a lot of good research that's particularly coming out of Germany and France based on this type of medicine. So that's where this is where I'm getting my thinking from when it comes to diet. And there are two major therapeutic effects to support and restore health, all based on promoting flow or good circulation. Think about it. Here I'm going to talk about energy and blood flow, for example, flowing through the body. When we think about how the body functions, every cell in the body, whether it's a muscle cell or an organ cell or a cell that makes up the tissue in your eye or your brain or the bone or the skin, every cell in the body needs to eat, it needs to breathe, and it makes waste. And that waste is toxic. It needs to be eliminated from the body. And all of that is done through the blood circulation. Blood brings oxygen and nutrients to every cell in the body. Every cell makes waste, and the blood helps to bring that to eliminate that from the body, whether it's urination through the kidneys and bladder, bowel movements through the intestines, exhaling, and even sweating through the skin. All of that's a process of eliminating, and this is all about flow and circulation. We eat through a tube, we breathe through a tube, the blood flows through a tube. There's so much in regards to how things flow in the body, and when that flow is obstructed, there's going to be problems. Tissue are not going to get fed, and they're going to suffer, and we're going to have health issues from that. Now, the two main therapeutic things that we like to focus on as acupuncturists is this flow, and that I kind of put two ideas together in one: blood and energy flowing. And also the second point that I wanted to make here was nutrition. So we need a flow of energy and blood, and also nutrition. And we call that gu qi. It's just another, qi is a term for kind of like energy, and there can be different types of energy. And so there's food energy, and then there's electrical energy. You can kind of think of it that way. So when I treat somebody and I do an evaluation and we talk about their health, I like to focus on, okay, the therapy that I'm going to provide is acupuncture, and I'm going to stimulate this circulation and flow in the body. The body has its own natural abilities to heal. But what is the person eating? What kind of nutrients are they obtaining and ingesting for their body to have the building blocks to function? We need energy from that food. We need building blocks from that food to create proteins and such to help our body to function and repair itself and restore and rejuvenate and function properly. So energy and food are the two ideas. And a lot of times people will come to me and they have a poor diet. And you know, I can help them. And a lot of times that's going to end up being temporary until they can correct their diet so that they're getting the right nutrients. And sometimes supplements are required and herbal formulas are required because they really need something that's targeted to their specific health issues. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about what to eat, and as I was saying before, what I want to focus on is how to eat a little bit more, because that is neglected, something that we don't tend to talk about. All right, so one of my top issues here, the first point in the top 10 tips here is relaxing when you eat. Digestion requires relaxation. Okay, we have two types of nervous systems in the body. The sympathetic nervous system deals with stress. Okay, I like to say run from a tiger. Okay, the muscles get strong, we spend a lot of energy, and we're dealing with stress. The other type of nervous system is called the parasympathetic nervous system, and that nervous system deals with simply recovering from that stress. And one of those methods of recovering is through digestion, eating food, restoring, rejuvenating. Okay, you can't run from a tiger and eat a sandwich at the same time. Okay, two different ideas, two different nervous systems, two different functions, two different processes and the chemical response in the body. Can't do it at the same time. But that is a big complaint that I want to say in the United States. We are a stressed out society. You know, we got a high stress culture, very busy. We need to learn. You know, I like to say freedom doesn't mean safety, because freedom is like a high value in our culture, but it doesn't mean that we're safe. It means that, you know, with the idea of freedom, you're able to do the things you want to do more freely. But we need education to do them well, to be safe, to take care of ourselves. We have to have self-reliance and responsibility. And unless you want to just depend on other people to take care of you all the time, which I don't recommend, I think you're going to be the one who wants to take control of your health, okay? You're going to do better caring for yourself than relying on others. So I want to focus on this idea of digestion and how the parasympathetic nervous system is one that innervates the digestive system. There's nerves in the stomach, in the intestines, okay? And those nerves have to function. They secrete acid into the stomach. There's little doors on the stomach that kind of open and close depending on what's going on in the chemistry inside the tissue, the stomach, for example. That contents gets broken down and liquefied, and it's literally bleached white. It's amazing. There's this white pure liquid that comes out of the stomach, and it's passed on to the intestines, the small intestine. That absorbs the liquid, and then it passes it to the liver. And the liver detoxifies that, okay? We don't want the contents of the stomach going straight into the blood and being delivered throughout the body. That's going to be toxic. It needs to just go to the liver. The liver detoxes it and breaks it down and reassembles it into the building blocks that we need. Okay, you can't just take a piece of broccoli, stick it in your blood. It doesn't work that way. It has to be broken down into and the micronutrients are ripped out of it and then reassembled into the form that we need. But see, some people have trouble in this whole digestive process. They don't have enough gastric juices to break down the food. There's all sorts of junk in the intestines that's blocking the absorption of the food. The intestinal lining, the junction between the cells are weak, and it's leaking toxins right into our blood. We're developing all sorts of sensitivities to food, and we're having immune responses. There's a thinking that a lot of this is called leaky gut syndrome, and this can lead to autoimmune diseases, which is the body attacking itself. And there's a lot of unknowns about that. But this is a thinking from, I guess, an alternative view, where leaky gut leads to autoimmune diseases. But we want to encourage good digestion. And one of the main top points that everybody's overlooking is we need to relax when we're eating. For that, all that functioning that I just threw at you, it requires relaxation. And people get busy and they have a working lunch or they're eating on the go. I mean, this is just going to create problems. And yeah, when you're young, you can do it. 10, 20, 30 years from now, when you're 50 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, and you've got gallstones because, and you have to have your gallbladder removed because your liver is just toxic and full of junk, and it's making sludge and it's getting deposited into the gallbladder, and now those stones in the gallbladder are blocking the secretion of bile, which helps to break down fat, which is so important. Or the doors in the stomach are not working right because the body is stressed out. And then people are taking acid stoppers, pills like omeprazole to lower the acid in your stomach. This is going to prevent digestion. If you don't have acid in your stomach, you're not going to digest your food well. But this is what they're doing, and you're only supposed to be on that for a short period of time, talking weeks. And there are people on that stuff for years. What they need to correct is the stress. They need to manage stress better. So this is a big conversation, and my big point that I see with people is stress. And they come to me, and my big focus therapeutically is relaxation, and acupuncture can really help to normalize the nervous system, help the nervous system to relax. Okay, so that's I'd say the number one issue with healthy eating and good digestion. You can eat the best food on the planet, organic, just delivered to you straight from God to your plate. And if you can't digest it, what does it matter? You can eat it, but if it's not going through all that digestive process that I just explained earlier, people are having diarrhea and constipation and all sorts of other issues too. Gas and bloating and just feeling stuffed, don't feel like things are moving. You eat, it just sits in your stomach. I mean, this is all a failed digestive system. Okay, so stress is a big factor. You need to learn how to relax. I can help you with that. There's all sorts of ideas on helping with that, but acupuncture is a big one, and there's some good herbs, herbal formulas that are just natural. And I'm not talking about any kind of recreational drugs and things like that that are going to make you sometimes feel a little out of sorts. I'm just talking about natural herbs that help to nourish your body and support your body through stress. Okay, so let's go to number 2. Number 2 is focused on fresh, whole, and natural is best. Okay, I'm talking about food, right? What is fresh? What is whole? What is natural? As opposed to processed. Okay, it's going to have the least amount of toxins and the most amount of nutrients. So what am I talking here? A simple idea is take an apple, pull it off the tree, fresh, it's in its whole form, it's an apple, I identify with, I can see it, and you eat it, and you're going to get the most nutrients out of it. Now you take the apple, and you say you smash it up, you want to make applesauce. Well, applesauce is not going to have, it's going to be more beat up, right? And it's not going to have the nutrition that that apple had. It's going to be less nutritional. And it's beat up. So it's going to be easier to digest. There's less fiber perhaps in the applesauce. And you're going to get more sugars out of it because you beat it up. So now you've got a food that's providing more sugar and less nutrients. So you see, the more you process something, the poorer quality in quality that food item becomes, okay? And there's a lot of things to educate yourself on. I'm not going to get into a lot of details and give you every specific thing, but you want to read labels. There's an app, I put a little note here, it's called Yuka app. You could find on your phone, and you can scan barcodes of foods, and it'll tell you in general, oh, this is good, this is bad. You know, it gives you a range from 0 to 100. Over 50 is in the good range. Under 50 tends to be in the bad range. And that's something that could start to educate you. And it'll tell you why it's good and bad. You can scroll through it. It'll tell you, oh, it's got this type of chemical in it, or preservative, or food coloring, whatever. You can look for those. You can use that app to educate yourself, okay? You know, foods that are genetically modified, you know, who knows about those things? You know, you know, maybe 50, 100 years from now, they'll say, oh, you know, those foods were okay. Or maybe they'll say, you know, that actually caused cancer. You know, we need the test of time. And I'm going to go with what is more natural, okay? Because it's been around longer and it stood the test of time. That's just my simple thinking. You know, of course, organic is best. Overly processed is not going to be so good, as I was explaining. You know, we don't want artificial sweeteners and food colorings and preservatives, you know. So, again, check out that app, and I think that might be helpful in steering you towards more fresh, whole, and natural food choices. Let's go down to number 3. Number 3 is don't overeat. Eat until you're about 80% full and then stop. And we need to learn this. Sometimes you're used to eating so much, and especially if you had a job where you were more physically active and now you have a different job. Or you're retired now and you're not as physically active. You got to think about that. You can't eat as much as you used to. You're just not going to be as physically active burning the calories. You know, I traveled to Europe a lot years ago. And the things that I noticed is that the food, even in restaurants, there are smaller portions and it's higher quality. Okay, and they a lot of times you hear they won't even allow some of the foods that we manufacture over here in the United States over there, because we got all sorts of junk in the foods that our government is allowing, you know, because there's a lot of vested interest in a lot of the food companies and the food makers out there, and that's a whole ball of wax to get into. But generally on this tip, don't overeat. If you notice yourself feeling full and bloated, you overate. And you know, a good thing to understand, sometimes you eat a food combination and it makes you really full. What's that combination typically? Protein and a starch. Meat and bread. You know, protein like meat and pasta, you know, spaghetti and meatballs, or meat and potatoes. Those combinations are heavy. So if you want a lighter meal, separate them. Meat with a salad, chicken, grilled chicken and a salad. No croutons, no bread, no pasta, okay? Or say you want some pasta, don't eat it with meat. Eat it just with some veggies, like a stir fry and some rice. Another starch, right? Another staple food. Those are lighter combinations. All right, moving right along. Be aware of failing digestion and digestive strain. Do you know the signs? People sometimes don't even realize I say, "Hi, you know, how's your diet and all?" "Oh, it's good. I eat good." What does that mean? You know, then you get into it and you find out, yeah, you're not eating good, and let me explain why. And they'll say, I get bloated sometimes, I get gas, burning sensation, I got diarrhea, constipation, nausea, I don't have a big appetite, or I have a heavy appetite. These are extremes I look for. Sometimes people eat and they're tired after they're eating, you know, or they have loose stool right after they eat. It goes right through them. The body's saying, I don't have energy to digest this. Get it out, you know. So that's a sign of your digestive system not working well. To me, I just call it a failing digestive system. And you're going to struggle. And you need to get that corrected. And that's where professional help is. And I can help you with that. I specialize in helping people with digestive issues. Let's move on to the next one. I want to try to keep this video as short as possible so I can help you focus on these important issues here a little bit more. Do you have a hydration plan? You know, hydrating is important. We are mostly water. Our blood, our hormones, everything, it requires fluid, water. It's a water base for things to flow and such, you know. So you need to have a good plan, okay? Think about hydrating yourself. So what I would just basically say is a simple, you know, 2 points to understand. One is when to hydrate, okay, and then how much. You know, I don't want to be counting ounces and 24 ounces, 16 ounces, 17. If you weigh a certain amount of weight, drink this many ounces, whatever. I don't want to be doing math all day long. I want a simple idea that's going to generally hit the target. A bottle of water an hour before and an hour after eating. Done. You're on target. Okay? You're hydrating. That's a good idea. Why do I say before and after eating? Because during eating, you don't want to be hydrating much. Maybe you take a little sip of something just to wet your mouth a little, swallow something. But you don't want to be diluting the acid in your stomach. You know, if you squeeze a lemon and you try to drink that lemon juice, whoo, that's strong, right? Very acidic. But you water it down, okay, it's more tolerable, it's not so acidic. But we don't, that's like the stomach acid. Okay, when we put food, we eat food and it goes in the stomach, we want it to be acidic. So that food just melts in our stomach. We need to turn it into liquid. Okay? So we need a good amount of acid. And if we're drinking fluids while we're eating, we're diluting our ability for our stomach to have the right acid levels to break down the food. So you eat in between, you drink in between meals. Okay, a bottle of water before, a bottle of water after. And that could be a good general hydration plan for you that I think would be very healthy. Okay, let's move down a little bit more here. Okay, low carb diet. I have a feeling I'm going to run out of viewing space here. Let me just try to correct this. Okay, good. Let's see. Hydration plan, low carb diet. I was talking about this earlier. You know, this is the high calorie foods, the sugar, the grains, the starches, the staple foods. You know, this is the cheap food for the masses I was talking about earlier. High in calories, it's good for, you know, high physical activity. But you need to eat it in small portions if you're not so physically active. If you're retired, if you're older, if you're sitting behind a computer, if you drive a bus all day, you know, you got to think about that. It's going to be the leading cause of weight gain and the thing that you want to really lower if you're thinking about trying to lose some weight or manage your weight. Okay, so think about this when it comes to sugar. All right, because sugar is just too abundant in our culture nowadays. It's in everything. They even put it in dog food. Oh my gosh. when I hear about dogs and, oh, my dogs are diabetic. You know, the dog doesn't even know about sugar. It's the people feeding the dog, you know. Just look at the food and don't give them sugar, you know. Oh my gosh. But anyways, sugar. Where is sugar abundant in nature? You know, my point about things that are natural are going to be healthy for us in general, okay? Where, if sugar is healthy for us and we're supposed to eat a lot of it, where in nature is it abundant? Because I don't see it. Maybe you can say fruit, oh, fruit, but you know, if you were living in nature, fruit is ripe just certain times of the year and that's it, okay? It's not all year round abundant. It's kind of like a treat, okay, special, it's limited. You might say honey, okay, good luck getting that. Right? The bees and all that stuff, but it's not abundant, okay? And you may even say, well, what about the maple syrup and the trees? And you know, you tap the tree for the water. Yeah, well, you're going to have to chop a cord of wood and boil 20 gallons of water to get your little jug of maple syrup. You know the calories that you're going to spend trying to get that sugar, okay? So bottom line, sugar is not abundant in nature, nor should it be in our diets, okay? Done with that one. Moving on to the next one. Sorry if I disappointed you there. I know everybody loves sugar. That's the problem. Okay, number 7, eat a variety of vegetables. Okay, first of all, fruits and vegetables. We should be eating a ratio of about twice as many vegetables to fruit. That gives you a sense of where the balance should be. A lot of times people eat too much fruit, not enough veggies. So think about it. If you're going to eat an apple, then during the day you should be eating twice as many veggies, right? So 2 apples, you know, it can add up to a lot of veggies, all right? So that's important to understand, and that's going to also help you to balance the sugar, because fruit is going to be abundant in sugar. It's a sugar source, okay? So you don't want to go hog wild with fruit. More veggies. And a variety of veggies. Why? Because there's a big talk about probiotics, the bacteria that lives in the intestines. It helps us. Yes, it does. It is all good. It actually has secretions that are soothing to our nerves and our mood, okay? People will come to me with anxiety, and one of my first thinkings diagnostically is, how is their gut? Is it functioning well? Because it could irritate the nerves and actually lead to things like anxiety and an uneven mood, you know, irritability, up and down, mood swings and such. So if you got mental emotional issues, I can help you. And one of the first things that we're going to look at is digestion, and the health of your gut, and the environment in your gut. And when you eat, back to this point, when you eat a variety of veggies, you're going to create a variety of good gut bugs inhabiting space in your intestines. That variety of veggies will create a variety of good gut bugs, the probiotics. And that is going to create a more sustainable environment in your gut. There are times where those gut bugs get wiped out. You get a stomach bug and it makes you sick and you get diarrhea, it's going to stop wiping out that environment. You go on antibiotics, that's going to stop wiping out that environment, especially if you take those antibiotics to a point where you get diarrhea. And there's a lot of other aspects. You know, if you're eating food that has preservatives in it, those preservatives are going to kill off gut bugs. It's going to kill off bacteria and stuff. It's preserving the food while it's going to create a preservation in your own gut, or a sterilization, you know. So a variety of vegetables will create a variety of gut bugs, and that will create a stronger gut biome or a gut biota, right? Biota. So that's an important thing to practice. Let's see. Let's go to number 8. This is fats are important. You know, I talked about this a little bit, and I put a little list here, and it's the seed oils that are a problem, and these other oils, these other types of oils that are good for cooking, because you need fats that can deal with high temperatures. Why? Because when we have fats that break down easily and their molecular structure changes, our body is not going to recognize those well. It's going to be like, what is this thing that I'm eating? And we're going to have trouble with that. So these seed oils like sunflower and canola and grapeseed, they break down easily. They're not very stable on the shelf, and they will go rancid. And then it becomes that's where fats and oils are problems, because of their quality. All right, but these other fats sources like butter, ghee, tallow, lard, they're more stable, and our body will recognize them and be able to use them better. Okay, and we'll be able to cook with them without them breaking down so easily. So that's a little thing about fats. It's about quality. Okay, now let's go down to number 9. Number 9. Proteins are important. Now, some people get into veganism and vegetarianism, and I want to critique that a little bit. You know, I want to support you in your personal interests and your personal goals, okay? And then I want to just point out a couple of things that might work against you and you should know about. So if you take, you know, B12 is a very important nutrient, and it's only found in the animal world. It's not in plants, only animals. So if you're not eating animal proteins, you're not getting B12. Now people might say, well, you know, there are people who are vegetarians in other countries, maybe like say India. They eat a lot of vegetables, you know, and where are they getting their B12? Well, what I would say is they're getting them from bugs. Sounds kind of weird, but think about it. Bugs are all sorts of shapes and sizes, and they get into foods, they get into vegetables, and some of them are kind of very small, and even on the microscopic level where they're laying eggs and stuff, and they're inside there. Okay, and you're eating them and you don't even realize you're eating them. But in the United States, where we eradicate everything with pesticides and toxins, and we're trying to make it all sterile, you know, that's a problem. It's a problem in a way, because you don't get access to the bugs if you're going to just be eating vegetables. You know, it's when I say bugs, you know, there's the insect-sized bugs, and then there's the bacteria-sized bugs that I like to talk about as probiotics, you know. So B12 is important. It only comes from the animal world, and you got to be aware of that and make adjustments if you're going to decide to alter your diet and stay away from animal foods. And then a second point to make is that, you know, if somebody's living in Alaska, like a native person, like an Inuit, you know, or somebody, and the way they eat, what is their dietary practices? And then you look at somebody that lives in a warm climate. Say again, I'm going to use India as an example. You're not going to see typically, like if you look at someone that's in the cold weather, they're not going to be this skinny kind of shape, lacking fat on the body. Okay, they're not going to be able to, their body's not going to be able to maintain a good temperature to stay warm in a cold climate. And vice versa. If you tend to have a little more weight on you living in a colder climate, and you move to a warmer climate, you're going to struggle. You're going to be too hot, because of the fat layer is like insulation. So what I'm trying to say is food, it depends on the temperature and where you live. If you live in a warm climate, having a diet higher in vegetables is going to be more important than a diet high in animal fats. Whereas, or things that are going to make you gain weight. Whereas if you lived in a cold climate, you'd want to have a little bit of fat on you to deal with that cold weather. And then if you live in a place where I live, right here in New England, we get all 4 seasons in one day sometimes. So that is hard to manage when it comes to eating. But what I would generally say is when you're heading into the winter time, gaining a few pounds is healthy. It keeps you warmer if your winter is cold. And when you're heading into the summertime and you're getting warmer temperatures, losing those few pounds are going to be important. It's going to be healthier. You're going to be in tune with the seasonal change. The problem is sometimes people gain weight. They love to eat those weight-gaining foods, real heavy, and they just keep eating those foods right through the summer, and they keep gaining weight, and then there's no proper management of that. So that's something to be aware of. You know, there's a little thing in here that I like to talk about as far as, okay, number 10, as far as the temperature of foods, okay? In traditional Chinese medicine, they say nothing cold, okay? Everything should be room temperature or warm. So what I like to say is you got to be careful with raw foods and cold foods. Too much of that is going to weaken digestive function. You got to think of the stomach like a furnace. It's burning, it's cooking. And when we put something cold in there, we're going to kind of like cool it down too much. Okay, so things should be warm. It helps with digestion. And that's why we have spices like pepper. Black pepper, it's warming, it's a spice. Ginger, garlic, onion, okay, it's warming, it helps digestion. Okay, so, and then chewing the food is very important to help digestion. I like to say, drink your food and chew your water. That's an expression I heard. What does that mean? So to drink your food, you got to chew it enough so that that food turns into liquid in your mouth and mix with your saliva. Then you swallow it. It's going to be so much easier for your stomach to break down. So that, and then chew your water means kind of like don't guzzle your water down. Take a little sip, enjoy the moistening aspect of it, but don't be guzzling it down, okay? Drink your food, chew your water. That's the expression. And then I got a bonus. Oh, everybody loves a bonus, right? I was thinking about this as I put this whole thing together. The gallbladder in the liver. You know, if you don't have a gallbladder, this is an important bonus for you for digestion. If you don't have a gallbladder, then your ability to absorb fat is going to be a problem. Okay, now if you have the misguided idea that fat makes you fat, and you're thinking, oh good, less fat, that's going to be good. No, that's all wrong, okay? Sugar makes you fat. When you have too much sugar and calories, and the body says, oh, I got extra, then the liver says, hey, let's convert it to fat and we'll store it for later. So that's, you know, this is not that conversation about sugar and gaining weight. Fat is very important for your body in many ways, but I just want to keep it simple. The liver makes bile. The bile's like an emulsifier. It breaks up fat like soap does. Fat doesn't travel well in water. Our body is mostly water, our blood. It's a water-based idea. So to get fat to travel through the body, we need to break it down and rip it apart and turn it into little molecules that we can transport, our body can transport well. And so the bile in the liver is very important. It's stored in the gallbladder, and the gallbladder secretes it into the intestines as we eat. And it helps to emulsify and break up the fat so it can be absorbed through these tiny hairs in the intestine. so that it can go to the liver. So if you don't have a gallbladder, you don't have this ability to do this well. You'll have a secretion of bile, but not abundantly. And so you need to take a supplement for the rest of your life, what I would just simply call a digestive aid, or some bile salts, something that's going to help your body deal with fat. Okay? And that, again, is something that I can help you with. Some of the aspects in this video you may need professional help with, you know, picking a specific diet type for your health issues. There's managing weight, but there's all sorts of health issues that struggle because you have a lot of inflammation in your body, you don't have the right nutrients to help your body to function. And targeting making sure your diet is proper so that you're eating the right foods to target the health concerns that you have are going to be important. That's where a health professional like myself can guide you in this manner. And so without a gallbladder, you need some, like a digestive aid to support that. And a lot of times people think, I get the gallbladder removed, my troubles are over. Wrong. It's, the problem's in the liver. It gets stored in the gallbladder. The stones get stored in the gallbladder, but they form in the liver. Okay, so the liver is still having a problem. You know, you may hear about fatty liver, all sorts of problems with the liver. That's such an important organ. It needs to be maintained. You need to sometimes go through purification diet, or fasting, or cleaning out, detoxing. Those are all specific, unique type diets that need guidance, and I can help you with that. So I hope you got some good information about this. It's not only about what you eat, but how you eat, and understanding and learning and getting education about your digestive system. And I hope you got some good information about this. If you're looking for more specific help, you can reach out to my clinic. You can visit the website, natureshealing.info, or you can give us a call and communicate various different ways, text messaging. There's a contact form on the website. You can find my clinic phone number there as well, or even through this video here. There's ways to communicate. You could leave comments and such, and be glad to help you and get you on a good path to health and healing. Okay, until next time, I wish you all the best, and keep on the sunny side.